We're talking with Carmen Bain, who is a sociologist at Iowa State University. Dr. Bain, how long have GMO foods been produced in the U.S. and how pervasive are they?
So GMO foods have been, or crops have been commercialized for 2 decades and are pervasive throughout the food system. Some 90% of cotton, soybeans and corn are genetically engineered, and corn and soybeans are the key ingredients into most processed foods. So genetically engineered foods are throughout the food system.
And so after a couple of decades, how and why did it become a controversy?
So I think there are a number of important reasons for why the campaign for genetically modified labeling has become a public debate and has achieved a number of different successes, including the passing of the Biotech Labeling Solution Act on July 14th. One is that I think consumer and environmental advocacy groups were successful at taking the campaign to the state level and engaging with people to try and pass laws or ballots at the state level. The Watershed Moment was the Vermont labeling law in 2014, and it was concerns about how companies were going to meet the Vermont labeling law that pressured companies to either preemptively label their own products as genetically engineered, as Campbell's did, but also to come to the table and work with other organisations like the Organic Trade Association and pass a federal mandatory law. I think other reasons is that I think a lot of the framing of the debate around why we should have labeling for GMO foods, such as that consumers should have a choice on whether they want to buy GMO foods or not. There should be greater transparency in the food system. People should have the right to know what's in their food. I think that really resonated with a number of consumers and a number of food businesses who felt that they wanted to be able to provide that choice, have that choice and that transparency.
So Congress finally passed a law in July. What does that legislation do?
So I think I think it's a really significant piece of legislation. It now provides a federal law that mandates that companies that sell food that contain genetically engineered ingredients must label those foods. It's significant in that it preempts states from passing their own legislation. So there will be a national law, and from the food industry's point of view, this is important because they were concerned about state-based labeling laws being very costly, patchwork of different regulations. So I think they're pleased to see that there's going to be one label for the nation. It's also significant and what many consider a win for GMO proponents, in that businesses can choose how to label their products. So they can have a text label that says this product contains genetically engineered ingredients, as Campbell's has done, or they can use a symbol, which is used in Brazil, or they can use a QR code where consumers would need a smartphone to actually get the information on whether it contained GE ingredients or not.
Some big food companies saw the writing on the wall, I guess, and just agreed to do this voluntarily. What are some of those companies? Their name brands.
Yeah, so companies like Campbell's, Mars, Hershey's and so forth. So these are companies who, yes, when they thought that the Vermont law was going to come into effect, decided that they would just go ahead and label their products. And
how do you think this federal law on labeling will affect the 90% of farmers who grow corn, soybeans, and other crops that are substantially GMO?
I don't think that genetically engineered crops are going to go away. So I don't think it's going to affect most farmers. I think what you are seeing is that because we're seeing a growth in the market for non-GMO food products, such as Dannon saying that they're going to develop non-GMO yogurt, Chobani has said the same thing, that there's an opportunity for some farmers to actually get into producing non-GMO products for the market. So this might be actually a positive business opportunity for farmers and not necessarily a negative.
Thank you, Dr. Bain.
Thank you.